And now, it's story time with your host, Karl Childers.
That Wheatley boy, he gave me a book by some foreign feller. It had a passel of stories in it. There was one about an ugly little duck. I can't kindly remember the name of it. I like his story a good bit. I can tell you about it if you want me to. You got a minute?
Yeah.
Seems like there's this mama duck. She was hatching her eggs there. All them young'uns, they look pretty regular for ducks, I reckon. All fuzzy with that twitchy little hind end, whacking up a storm, except for one of them. Instead of quacking, he made a sound like a hog eating slop. He was a whole lot bigger than his brothers and sisters. He had big old feet, even for a duck. He was a mite odd. He kindly loped around there, bumping into stuff, chewing with his beak open and pooping on the floor. Just like John Boy. His mama loved him, but all the other critters at the farm there, they was a mite cruel to him. Made sport of him a good bit. One duck in particular, he was the worst. He'd poop in his food and hold him underwater down at the pond. Give him engine burns on his wings there. That poor ugly little duck feller, he was plumb put out. He finally figured he'd better wander off summers before things got out of hand. Well, sir, he walked around the countryside there, seeing the sights, having adventures, like that Chinese boy in Kung Fu. He found some old woman out in the woods there. She's a sweet little thing, no bigger than a squirrel. She took him in, made him biscuits and mustard when he wanted them. She let him stay out in the shed there. He got him a stall, dug himself a hole to sleep in. It wasn't easy for him to dig, on account of having wings instead of hands, but he did all right, I reckon. It was a pretty good thing for a while, but it didn't last. That old woman's cat and chicken, they started to talking between themselves. They didn't like the looks of that ugly little duck neither, so they got together and runned him off. He was plumb mad at the world. That ugly little duck, he was living in his own heart. That's a mighty big place for a little duck to live. He didn't have no one. He walked around summers for the whole summer and the fall. And when it started to snow, well, sir, he figured he better wash the stink off in his feet before it got too cold. He splashed around the pond there, and before he knew it, he was plumb froze solid into it. Some feller come by and saved him, took him back to the house, fed him real good, brought him the funny papers to read, and let him watch cable TV there. By the springtime, when spring rolled around, that ugly little duck, he was all fat and happy. Maybe a little too fat. That feller that rescued him, sharpening his butcher knife and eyeballing him like Doyle Hargreaves staring at them dirty girls down at the liquor barn. That little duck poked that feller in the eyes like one of them stooges, then made a run for it. He waddled along at a pretty good clip, till he finally seen some of the prettiest birds he'd ever seen. They all waved at him to come over, but he reckoned they just gonna poke fun at him too. He was leaving. He saw himself in the pond water there, and danged if he didn't look like them other pretty birds. He runned over to them, made friends right off. They liked the way he quacked. He liked the way they quacked. And he found out he weren't no duck at all. He was something called a swan. He thought that sounded funny. Not funny, ha-ha, funny queer. He was all get up about finally being with critters like he was. He was happy about his good luck of being purty and all. Them other swans, they throwed him a little party. Well, sir, that old swan was getting in a bad way with that brown liquor. He started thinking about all them critters who did him wrong. He got some of the other swans together, and they started backtracking. He run down everybody that was cruel to him and plumb whooped the tar out of them. But I don't reckon that satisfied him none. He and that gang of swans, they went back that farm there where he was born, looking for that ornery little duck that drove him off in the first place. They found him out behind a pig pen, and he just all red. He commenced to pecking him on the skull. Killed him. His mama come running up and said, "What'd you peck your skull for? What'd you peck your skull for?" He pecked her on the skull too, and all his brothers and sisters till there weren't none left. Moral of the story, you hadn't ought to make sport of ugly young'uns, because someday when they get purty, they'll come back and pick your skull. The end.
Storytime is brought to you by Hargrave's Potted Meat Product, chock full of peckers and lips since 1937.
You ever pecked anybody on the skull, little fella?
No.